Early voting underway. How and where you can cast your ballot today. Renters in San Diego staging a protest over concerns there are not enough safeguards in place to protect them from eviction. And the latest on the president's coronavirus treatment as another prominent figure in his circle tests positive. ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
And welcome this midday. Great to have you with us. I'm Jim Patton, and I am joined remotely by my co-anchor Virginia Cha and 10 News meteorologist Megan Perry. Always great to see you, and we will be with you very shortly. Well, your voice, your vote. Today marks the start of early voting in San Diego County, and the day voters will start receiving their mail-in ballots.
The first two that stood in line are Michael Milburn and Paul Cisco, two voters who believe this election. On the first day of early voting, even before the doors were opened at the county registrar of voters, people say they were ready to vote. The first two that stood in line are Michael Milburn and Paul Cisco, two voters who believe this election is too important to sit out, and they didn't feel comfortable mailing in their ballots.
I think this is probably the most important election in my lifetime. I think there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of changes going to be going on in the next year or two.
I had to come to vote. To be quite honest with you, I feel bad about it because I didn't start voting until Obama came in office. I'm 55, I should have been voting way back when.
Both decided to come early, concerned about having to wait in long lines, which election officials want people to be mindful of. They believe this election will bring out the county's highest voter turnout to date. This morning, those from the San Diego County Democratic Party came to promote early voting, saying it will speed up the results.
Because if you want to have the count, if you don't want to be waiting on election night, the more people to vote early, the better. That's better for everyone. We'll get more results in sooner.
We also reached out to the San Diego County Republican Party. They sent this statement saying they're also encouraging Republicans to vote early. In Kearny Mesa, Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
So some ballots arriving in the mail today, early bird voters casting their votes, not unlike a typical lead up to Election Day. ABC 10 News anchor Steve Atkinson joins us live from the Registrar of Voters office. Steve, you know, some things seem normal, but of course because of the pandemic, there are also some very big differences.
Oh, Virginia, this is a very atypical year, if anything, because of the pandemic. This long, strange 2020 continues, and that's going to change the way that you vote this year as well. As you mentioned, and as Marie was talking about, you probably are receiving one of these in the mail as early as today. You can vote as early as today if you want. If you're not familiar with this, this is a mail-in ballot. A lot of you are, because 74% of the county has voted it in the past as well. For many of you, that's not new at all. What is new is the way that you can vote. So let's take you all the way back to March of 2020 to show you how different things are from just a few months ago. Back in the olden days, 7 months ago, 3/4 of registered voters voted by mail. Now, because of the pandemic and the state law, every registered voter will get a mail-in ballot to vote safe. There were also almost 1,600 smaller local precincts where you could vote in person. Now there will be 235 super polling places with plenty of social distancing. And finally, if it makes you feel better to drop off your mail-in ballot, the county has 126 locations where you can do that as well. Someone from the county will be there to monitor, to make sure that your mail-in ballot is also signed and sealed. That's a good thing. So a lot of changes, but it's all in an effort to keep you safe during this pandemic.
That's my number one right now, is informing the entire public that there are changes in this upcoming election, and they are all in response to the pandemic.
Now, the registrar, that was Michael Vu right there. He's also encouraging everyone to vote early. Voting by mail actually begins today, as we've talked about, and runs through Election Day, so look for your mail-in ballots in the mail. If you want to vote in person, you can do that as well. You can do it right here at the Registrar of Voters office. As you can see, Adam, if we can pan over here, they are taking people in right now, registering them, or if they're already registered, they're just getting them set up to go inside. In fact, we talked with a woman earlier this morning in the parking lot who said she had not received her mail-in ballot as of yet, could come any day, but she was leaving on vacation, so she decided to come out here and make her vote count as well. If you want to wait until later on in the month, you can do that. October 31st, in-person voting begins at many of those 235 precinct polling places around the county. You can vote from Saturday, October 31st, all the way through Election Day, November the 3rd. So a lot of activity out here early as voting begins. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Steve. We'll check back with you at the bottom of the hour. Meanwhile, one more look at some of those important dates for voters over this next month. It's important to look at these because there are several. As Steve and Marie just showed us, early voting already underway if you are registered. The deadline to register to vote, October 19th. Your registration must be postmarked by that date. After that time, you can still vote, just conditionally. In-person voting begins October 31st at any one of the county's 235 polling places. Election Day is November 3rd. 10news.com is your source for complete election coverage. Just click on Election 2020 at the top of the homepage. You'll find stories on the issues and the candidates so you can make the most informed decision this election. And a quick reminder, the vice presidential debate is this Wednesday, October 7th, 6 p.m. You can watch it right here on ABC 10. And stick around after the debate for a special edition of ABC 10 News at 8 p.m. Now to the latest regarding President Trump's COVID-19 treatment. Doctors say the president's condition is improving. The White House is hoping he can return from Walter Reed Medical Center sometime today. That update is coming as we learned this morning. Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary, has also tested positive now, along with the assistant press secretary. Now, President Trump has been at Walter Reed for 4 days now since his positive test. He's been given multiple treatments, including remdesivir and a steroid called dexamethasone, which experts say is meant for patients with significant symptoms. Now, the White House has described the president's symptoms as mild, but doctors say he has been given supplemental oxygen a couple of times.
I was concerned for possible rapid progression of the illness. I recommended the president we try some supplemental oxygen, see how he'd respond.
Doctors not saying what kind of damage, if any, the president's lungs may have suffered since contracting the virus. Jim?
Virginia courts in California back open today. For many renters who are struggling, there is fear that could mean landlords can start filing evictions. ABC 10 News anchor Mary McKenzie spoke to an Imperial Beach mother who says that recent protections signed into law simply aren't enough to keep her from facing the loss of her home.
It's really hard. It's really scary because AB 3088 is supposed to be protecting us. And look at what happened.
Clutching eviction notices from her landlord, Patricia Mendoza, came to Balboa Park with other renters who say they're still at risk, despite legislation recently signed by the governor aimed at protecting them. Organized by the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, they decorated cars to carry their messages. And prepared to drive to the courthouse, which opens today, driving fear that some landlords can now begin eviction proceedings. They want them to be stopped and rent to be canceled. They say the new legislation doesn't go far enough. AB 3088 is a compromise agreement designed to protect tenants from eviction and some property owners from foreclosure due to the economic impacts of COVID-19. The governor called it a bridge to a more permanent solution. But for Mendoza, it's a bridge to nowhere, as she says her new landlord has already found a loophole. She showed us her 60-day and 15-day notices. The single mom's building was sold to a new owner who's now evicting her, according to the notices, to do renovations, which Mendoza feels is cruel exploitation. She lost her job as a medical transport operator in March. She has asthma and now anxiety about how she'll take care of her 2 kids and what would happen to them if she got sick.
I have kids. Where am I going to go? You know, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. This is more stressful for me. I've had 7 asthma attacks since March 26th. This is just more on my plate.
Mary McKenzie, ABC 10 News.
Early this morning, lifeguards called to rescue a man who jumped off the Ocean Beach Pier. Friends called police after the man jumped off while intoxicated. This happened around 5:45 this morning. When lifeguards arrived, they found the man hanging on to the pillars of the pier. They were able to reach him and bring him back to the beach. Medics checked him out to make sure that he was okay.